Hello, everybody. Welcome to Broadway.com's Live at 5. It is Thursday, May 2nd, and I am Ryan Lee Gilbert.
And I'm Paul Wontorek.
And we are joined once again here in the studio by the magnificent Caitlin Moynihan.
Hello.
Good use of adjectives.
I know.
Thank
Makes
you.
you feel
Come up with an adjective for
fancy.
today's guest.
And we have the absolutely remarkable two-time Tony nominee Bertie Carvel here with us this afternoon. He is starring in INK over at the Samuel J. Friedman Theater. Exceptional in it. The play is fantastic. We will talk to him about all of that in just a moment. But first, let's talk about today's top 5.
This debate is heading to the West Coast.
So Heidi Schreck is having a good week. She's, of
She
course,
is.
Tony nominated for
Extended.
her play, What the Constitution Means to Me. It's up for Best Play, and also she's up for Best Lead Actress in a play.
Absolutely.
We have just learned that the play will play LA next year as part of the Center Theater Group's 2019-2020 season. Oliver Butler will once again direct. This will run from January 12th through February 16th, 2020. We don't know who's in it yet. Maybe Heidi.
I mean, maybe Heidi. Hopefully Heidi will do it.
Heidi
Yeah.
can just tour the world in this new hit.
Hopefully.
Anyway, it's part of the season, like I said. Also on schedule is Oscar winner Ethan Cohen's new play called A Play. It happened again.
Wow.
A Play is a Poem, directed by Tony winner Neil Pepe. And Pulitzer Prize finalist Rajiv Joseph's new play King James, directed by Anna D.
Oh, that's the one
Shapiro.
that's about like James LeBron, right?
Oh, that's right.
Oh, yeah.
That's right.
Fascinating. Okay.
Look at you with the memory. Good job. So anyway, all that great stuff is coming to LA.
And audiences are going to be able to look through heaven's eyes when this show heads to the UK.
Well done, deep
Thank
cut. Yes, The Prince of
you.
Egypt, one of those movies that everyone always assumes is a Disney movie. It is not. It is a DreamWorks
Correct.
movie.
Correct.
So people have been wanting this to be turned into a stage musical for a very long time, and it's finally happened. It will have its UK premiere on the West End in 2020. So it's still a little bit of time before we get to see it. But of course, it is based on the film. It'll be directed by Scott Schwartz and features 10 new songs from Stephen Schwartz.
A Schwartz
The
family
Schwartzes.
collaboration.
A Schwartz family collab. It features a book by Philip Lezebnik. And in case you don't know what The Prince of Egypt is about, it follows 2 young men. They are raised together as brothers. One of them grows up to be the pharaoh. The other one grows up to lead his people to freedom. It's an absolutely fantastic movie. I'm sure the stage musical will be fantastic as well. It will play the Dominion Theater beginning on February 5th, 2020, and will officially open on February 25th. Casting will be announced soon.
Oh, I'm sorry, but what's the most iconic thing about the movie?
Oh my God.
Whitney and
Believe.
Mariah.
Whitney and Mariah.
Whitney
of
and
course.
Mariah
Yes.
sang "If You Believe" together.
That's
And they
right.
showed up wearing
You're right.
the same outfit at the Oscars.
That's right. You're
love
right.
that
I mean, the movie's iconic for other reasons as well, but yes.
I don't
that is
think
its
Mariah
pop
will be
culture.
at the Dominion.
I don't think so. No.
Never know.
And this book-turned-movie is getting a musical second life.
So, there was a movie called Sideways.
Fantastic movie.
You love it?
I've never
Alex,
heard of
I
it.
love this
Okay,
movie.
you
Yeah.
love it. I
Yeah.
just remember it's about a bunch of rich white people drinking wine. Correct?
Two white guys. Yes.
Isn't that
They-
what it
they-
is?
Yep,
It's
they go
about
to
wine
It's about
drinking
wine. Yes.
and
but also
driving
finding
around.
yourself. And,
Paul
yeah.
Giamatti was in it.
Yes,
anyway,
absolutely.
But I guess it was a novel first. Rex Pickett wrote the best-selling novel, and then it became a 2004 Oscar-winning film.
It did.
And so they're making a musical of it. This is really interesting. Apparently, there was a non-musical play version done in 2013 at La Jolla Playhouse that Des McAnuff, 2019 Tony nominee, Des McAnuff of Ain't Too Proud, The Life and
Yes.
Times of the Temptations.
Look at that.
Full
I
title.
refuse to
Sell
shorten the
Full
title.
Give it its full due.
There's
You
like
know?
the longest title of the year and the shortest is Ink.
3 letters.
3
That's
letters.
right.
We love it. Anyway, it's about, let me be clear, 2 men reaching middle age with not much to show but disappointment. And they embark on a week-long road trip through wine country. And one of them's about to get married. And they get wasted.
They do.
And they have fun. And so it's going to be a musical with an original score by Anthony Adams and a book by Rex Pickett, who wrote the novel. Is that
Very cool.
correct?
Yeah,
Okay. Like, because,
very cool.
people get confused. A book of a musical and a book.
Oh, a
Right.
real book.
No.
Book, novel. But anyway.
Yeah.
Sideways.
I'm
maybe.
excited.
Okay,
I'll be
cool.
there.
Bring your wine.
And congratulations are in order for this year's Theater World Award winners.
Yes, it is award season, of course.
Is
and
it?
It is.
No
Is this the
idea.
last thing we're waiting to find out about?
I know. I mean, we still have ours coming up, of course, but it is the 2019 Theater World Award honorees were named today, and this is for outstanding Broadway and off-Broadway debut performances. They will be celebrated at the 75th Annual Theater World Awards ceremony on June 3rd. It will be at a Broadway house to be announced. Here's being honored: Benga Akinabe from To Kill a Mockingbird, Tom Glenn Carney from The Ferryman, Sophia Ann Caruso from Beetlejuice, Patty Considine from The Ferryman, James Davis, Oklahoma, Michaela Diamond, The Cher Show, Bonnie Milligan, Head Over Heels, Simone Missick from Paradise Blue, Jeremy Pope, two-time Tony Award nominee for Choir Boy, Colton Ryan from The Girl from North Country, Stephanie Styles in Kiss Me Kate, and Phoebe Waller-Bridge of Fleabag are all being honored. It's an exciting group. A lot of those are Broadway.com fresh faces. You should go check all those out. And Nathan Lane has been named the recipient of the 7th Annual John Willis Award for Lifetime Achievement in Theater because he is the mayor of Broadway. We love Nathan Lane. Congrats to all the honorees. Excited for your big night.
And finally, the Fleabag is going across the pond.
Well,
Speaking
so Phoebe Waller-Bridge, who was
Yeah.
just on your list of
Right.
honorees, her hit solo comedy Fleabag, which recently closed off-Broadway, will play London's West End for a limited run this summer. Vicky Jones is the director, is playing the Wyndham's Theatre from August 20th through September 14th. This is, of course, a rip-roaring look at a woman who may appear emotionally unfiltered and oversexed, but that's just the tip of the iceberg. It was also on TV, right? So the
It was.
BBC
The
made a
second-
series. It was on Amazon Prime.
Yeah, and I
in
think the
States.
second season is about to come out or just came out, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
People love it. I
People
haven't
do.
seen the show, but people love it.
She's also
And
so busy. She created that Killing Eve that everyone's into. She's like in a Star Wars movie. Yeah, Phoebe Waller-Bridge. She's like
busy.
helping the new James Bond movie. She's gonna help like work on that script. She's super busy.
I can
People
help with
love
the
Phoebe
James Bond
Waller-Bridge.
movie. I love James Bond.
Offer it up. Call the
I don't know.
Broccolis. Yeah.
I think Bertie Carvel would be a good James Bond.
I agree. A couple of other
I
interesting.
think that's a good idea.
Absolutely.
I think that's a great
Yeah.
idea.
Or like the villain in a James
That
Bond
was my
movie.
it was a good idea
Fantastic.
and also a segue for me to get out.
Yes, well, there are a couple of other interesting things on the site.
Oh, okay.
The Book of Mormon is now the 15th longest running show in Broadway history. There's a cute little emoji video that we put up for
we
them.
go together. They beat Grease.
They beat Grease, yes. And Beetlejuice performed on the Today Show this morning, so there's an exciting performance of that to watch as well. Paul, thank you so much. Have a great afternoon. Caitlin.
Maybe a Bond villain. Yeah, maybe a Bond,
Bond
villain.
villain.
Okay, yeah,
Bond
okay,
villain.
Okay.
Caitlin, would you tell us about today's guest?
Gladly. Yes, we have Bertie Carvel in the studio with us today because he's a newly minted two-time Tony nominee to talk all about his Tony-nominated Ink that is on the Broadway. He earned his first Tony nomination for his portrayal of Miss Trunchbull and Matilda, and that also marked his Broadway debut. He has 2 Fancy Pants Olivier Awards for both the roles that he has been on Broadway with. He also earned an Olivier nomination for his work in Parade. Follow at MTC_NYC to stay up to date on this awesome Tony nominee and the Tony nominated show. Please leave all of your questions in the comments below, and please welcome Bertie and Ryan.
Welcome to Live at
Thank you very
5,
much.
sir.
Hi, guys.
So happy to have you. I don't know if you'll recall this, but 6 years ago, when you were here on Broadway, making your Broadway debut in Miss Trunchbull, I also started at Broadway.com.
Congratulations.
And
So
you were
we're
my
kind of twins
So we are.
in a
You were my
weird-
very first fresh face.
Wow.
Yeah, one of the very first things I wrote for the site was interviewing you, sir.
Aw.
So
What did you say? Can we pull that up and see if you were right?
Throw it up on the screen. I said all good things, but I mean, you said all good things. And here you are, 6 years later, a role on Broadway, nominated for a Tony that you've won an Olivier Award for. How is it different this time? How was Tony morning for you?
Oh, wow. I suppose I had a bit of a better idea what to expect. And my God, I mean, it's a big fancy circus here. You guys take your awards seriously.
Too. We love to give them out, you know.
So I was prepared to do a lot of grinning and smiling, and
Right.
maybe my note to self is to be a little less shy about enjoying the moment. I'm not sure I'm managing it very well. I'm not sure it comes naturally. I think the sort of baked in kind of demure sort of attitude that I can't quite shake off. But I'm going to try as hard as I can to just cheer my way through it and
Absolutely.
enjoy it.
Absolutely. And you're here once again with just an incredible, I love this show so much. I was a journalism major in college, and so it's a topic that really
Yes.
fascinates me. It was obviously a big hit in London as well, but I would imagine it's a little bit different in London. I mean, the sun is something that people still see every day in London. How is it different for this
Some people.
audience?
I don't know why
Some
I'm leaning into
people,
this
yes.
microphone. Many people. I mean, it's still it has an enormous circulation.
Sure,
A
yeah.
massive political influence and cultural power, and I think that So maybe that's not familiar here. Perhaps there's some initial unease from audiences here about what they're meant to know about the sun. I think that very quickly evaporates.
Agreed,
because
yeah.
what you realise very quickly is that this is the story of how it all began, so actually it doesn't really matter. And what we share in common is the sense of the kind of the end of the arc and who Mr. Murdoch has become and his
Right.
massive influence on global politics. So there's all of that in common. I suppose there's one or two cultural references that we felt didn't have the same resonance, so James decided to sort of make
James Graham, your
James Graham,
playwright.
the playwright, and Rupert Gould, the director, made very, very few decisions, as we did with Matilda, to sort of massage the play here or there, just to help that sense that we're all telling the same story,
Right.
kind of like the audience is the play's oxygen, really. So you don't want people stuck on thinking about something that happened a page ago. James writes, the gags come thick and fast. So
They do.
There's not much. There's not much chance for an audience to get too kind of hung up on. But I do think as well, like when Rupert said something smart actually in rehearsal, he said that he felt American audiences, it's a huge generalization, but thought that the tempo was slower, but that they thought much more deeply. And so I think there is a tendency for people to really think very deeply about what's resonating in the play, and so that maybe has an impact on the way the evening goes. I don't know.
Yeah, no, and it reminded me. I mean, I think the word thriller kind of gets tossed around for a lot of theatrical productions, but I think this is actually. I mean, you slam right into it, and then I don't think the pace lets up at all. But it also reminded me of like those classic like sports movies, right, where you have something like the sort of team is in disarray, it's failing. Someone comes in this case, Rupert Murdoch, and brings them back. What kind of attitude did you bring in terms of the pace that you were setting for this? Did it remind you of that at all?
Yeah, structurally, it's absolutely built that way, particularly in so you have an underdog. Things get turned around against all expectations. Then the tempo changes in the second act. So structurally, that you can make that comparison. I suppose that actually. It's not really particularly helpful to think about that stuff from my chair.
Sure, right.
Well, not least because actually if you wanted to sort of extend the analogy, I think it's really Larry Lamb who's maybe Murdoch is the coach.
Sure, right, yeah.
Larry Lamb is Johnny Lee Miller's character is the centre forward, and he's the sort of team's captain, team star player, and actually doing a lot of the heavy lifting in terms of turning the thing around. I suppose that the analogy does kind of fall down, really. I mean, a more useful. You know what? I'm hesitating because I've got various kind of analogies that I hold in my mind, but I really think we were just talking about this outside. Like, there's an obsession with looking at the workings of things, and I think because people are interested in something, that want to understand how it's made. I tend to think that we're in the business, all of us, audiences and actors alike, are in the business of collectively imagining something.
Right.
And you don't want to look too hard at how something's made. Trust me, because you'll find that it's prosaic. Whereas what we all imagined together becomes poetic when it's good, when the work is good. So the tools of the trade and which isn't to say that one can't. I could be fantastically articulate, I hope, about how we made the thing, but I think something would be lost.
Sure, yeah.
And there's a great line in Lord of the Rings that I remember from the radio version, the sort of 20-hour BBC radio broadcast. It really stood out to me then, and I think it's Radagast the Brown says, he who breaks a thing to find out what it is. No, it's Gandalf, I think, saying it to Saruman. He who breaks a thing to find out what it is has left the path of reason. And I think that's true of what we do. So, that said, what's the next question?
No, that's. I mean, you are playing. I mean, Rupert Murdoch, as you are playing a real person living. Where did you begin in terms of your research, or what was your biggest goal in mind in bringing this character to life in the context of Ink?
Well, so I suppose you start with, but particularly with a play like this that was, James writes at a furious rate and was writing all the way through. There was an early draft that I saw and was extremely excited by and wanted to do the play, but knowing that I've worked with James before, and Rupert was always very clear that the play would continue to change and evolve as they generally do, new plays and new musicals, and so. But James pretty much rewrote the play every day, right through rehearsals and previews, and was trying out new material. And Rupert was restructuring things, and that was an incredible process. So there's a certain amount of input into what that should be, and I suppose that means that one does have to stand back and have an idea of what you kind of want it to be, what story you like to be telling. But ultimately, the job is just to serve the playwright, and actually, I think that trumps the duty. That there's another kind of hang-up, which is I have a kind of journalistic duty to the truth of the man,
right? Yeah.
And so, of course, before the second draft arrived, I could go off and read everything I could about Murdoch, watch videos, etc., etc. And to a certain extent, that stuff informs the conversations in the rehearsal room. To a certain extent, it informs choices that you might make. But ultimately, you can't play your research. You can only play your action or your intention towards another character. And so I feel like ultimately I was liberated by the sense that the kind of responsibility to the truth of an artist is different to that of a journalist. And
Certainly, yeah.
I think our responsibility is to access the truth through the imagination, through all these tools that perhaps, you're not meant to use as a journalist. I shouldn't say you can't have an imagination. I don't know what your relationship to this is, but so yeah. Does that make sense?
And of course, yeah. and Rupert Murdoch, he came and saw the show in London,
yes,
and you had a quick little interaction,
we did.
Just acknowledging how strange it was.
I kept it as quick as possible because I knew that if I wasn't careful, this is the only thing I'd be talking about.
Right.
There'd be no space for talking about our work. It's notwithstanding the fact that I just told you I don't like talking about the work. I should have, if I was smart and a good raconteur, which I'm not, I'd have created an incredible moment to dine out on for the rest of my life, and I'd have been absolutely sorted for interviews for the rest of my time on this planet. But I'm not built that way, and I thought, keep it.
Is there
keep it brief, keep it clean.
If he happened to be more talkative in that moment, or if that is, have you thought about something that you'd like to ask him at this point after having played, or do you are the two Rupert Murdochs for you just completely separate entities?
They're not separate. No, they're precisely not separate. I mean, I haven't had kind of l'esprit de l'escalier and thought, if only I'd said such and such. It's important to me not to extend that, because what am I going to find? I was pleased that he was, prepared to meet us all, and I don't want to delve too much into that. I neither require nor. I think I would feel complicated about either a good or a bad review.
Mm-hmm.
And but that's because they're not separate. I mean, you have to be careful about libel and things. God knows
Certainly,
what the libel. I spend my life saying I'm playing the character called Rupert Murdoch, and it's true. I mean, I can't claim any. I can't claim any special insight into the inner workings of Mr. Murdoch. What I can do is observe the world as I see it as an artist and give a subjective take on that. I can try and present something that's humane, that's exciting, that's worth watching, that maybe has as much integrity as I can give it. And in a way, the closer you kind of fly to the sun, the more the closer I suppose you get to your source, the more you risk realizing that your work is all founded on the wrong assumptions. Equally, though, I don't think any of us is necessarily has a monopoly on the truth of ourselves, and there's something that can be observed from outside that you can't observe about yourself, and
Right.
Which is why they don't let us write our own reviews.
Right. You've had this fantastic run of playing these, and I'm sure you don't, see them this way, but on paper they are these unlikable characters or these villains in sorts, and you've become this actor who just transforms himself every single time you get in front of a camera, you get on stage. What is your favorite part of taking on these characters and just transforming your voice and your body and everything into pulling them off?
Well, I really do enjoy what you might call transformation, and I mean it's not always extreme.
And then almost stretch balls.
I can do naturalism. But I think the thing is, if I had to sort of try and be pithy, which doesn't come naturally to me, I think it's Oscar Wilde said, if you give a man, unfortunately he did say a man, it's always bloody men, isn't it? Give a man a mask and he'll tell you the truth. And there's something in that for me. I think that, there's lots of ways to skin a cat, and there are lots of ways to approach acting. For me, I'm able to expose more of myself and feel more truthful, more engaged, and put more of myself into something. Not always, but often when I don't know if putting a mask on feels like putting something in between you. And oddly, what's what I like about that quote, oddly, sometimes a mask or the figurative mask, the act of transformation, can be an opening, not a closing off. But it's not always the case, and sometimes that it's not either or either. I suppose that what's delicious is that I can find myself in Miss Trunchbull, absolutely, and in moving towards the gross physical attributes, I'm actually moving closer to something an internal feeling. Similarly with. I actually started out doing the Murdoch thing, very not low key, but I suppose you might call it a kind of species of naturalism. James's writing is very colloquial, very kind of conversational, and there weren't kind of gross physical choices made on their own merit. It's just that in approaching the what felt like the right feeling, I find that certain physical shapes take root, and it can be tiny, and then over the course of hundreds of performances or just a rehearsal process, you kind of find it's kind of fun to lean into that, and that's what's great about the theatre. And there's I don't think there's any rhyme or reason to it. It just feels fun to do it that way,
right?
And people seem to agree, and that's what directors are good for as well, because sometimes it's not useful, or it isn't a key to unlock a door to character. It's just a sort of gross physical choice, and a director can say, why are you doing the thing with the, maybe drop the lisp, or,
Right.
I had a director at drama school who wrote me they just started writing reports because they'd just taken a funding from the Higher Education Funding Council, which meant they had to document everything. And they had to give us marks as well. We never got to see the marks, but we did get to see the reports. Anyway, I digress. This director wrote a report and said, "I am to be congratulated, I think, for keeping Bertie from all manner of pince-nez, camp stools, monocles, etc." And as I remember, I still had a pipe, bicycle clips, a unicycle. You know, there's like, so there wasn't an untricksy performance, but he had my number, I think.
Right,
you know.
right. Well, whatever fun you're having, we're having as well, too, because it's in the audience. It's fantastic. I want to open up to the people that are watching and following along. What would they
Totally.
like to know from Bertie?
So the main question I'm getting a lot is people want to know if you're actually eating food on stage.
Oh, yeah.
And how much? What are you eating? How
I'm
much do you
eating-
actually eat?
I'm
Rupert
eating
likes
as
to
much
stay
as I
bloody.
can of, yeah, I'm eating a rare fillet steak. I think it's cooked over the road at the Glass House, so thank you, Glass House.
Okay.
Okay.
And if not, that was a free plug for the Glass House. They've been very kind to me over the years. So, that's as close to breaking the spell as
Right.
you'll get. Let's imagine that it was cooked in the kitchen at Rules, but
Yes.
but yeah, you heard it here, folks.
And are you...
And I eat 10.5 to 11 spoonfuls of vegetable soup also. 7 on the way up in the lift and 3 to 4 on stage, depending on how Johnny's feeling in the scene.
Thank goodness you like steak.
Yeah, well, actually, I made a decision. I made a decision to try and become a vegetarian.
Before you got involved?
No, you know, because there's only so many times you can hear how it's like the one thing we can do to save the planet.
Right, yeah.
And not try. And I have to say that I'm trying with like a. There's no capital letters in that. But
I get that.
luckily, I get to eat a raw steak every night. I can't do anything about that.
Amazing. Yeah. Another question is, what is it like being able to be in like Bunny, who is the set designer, and be in her world
Absolutely
and
incredible.
get to be like, you know, going in and out of those doors on that set and being in
Right.
that world.
And your grandfather and father were all newsmen as well, right?
Yes.
So you know that world outside of what Bunny's created
That's
as well.
right. Yeah, it's wonderful. I mean, it's a delight. It really kind of conjures that world so fully, and actually probably even more so. When, you know, one of the nice things is about a part like this is that the huge tranches of the play I'm not in. So in the tech, I can sit out front and really kind of revel in what an audience can enjoy, which you don't necessarily fully appreciate. I mean, building a show, or any show really, but particularly one like this, you know, it's important to have a mock-up of the set in the rehearsal room. So they'll build all the levels and you know the desks and there's, but it's only a mock-up of the thing with the full flavour. And then of course, incredible video design also that kind of gives so much texture. So and Neil Austin's amazing lighting, and you know the whole thing is so rich. It really does conjure. For me, my childhood spent in the old Guardian offices on Farringdon Road, and desks everywhere piled high with papers and telephones ringing, and you know it's great, and it's great to kind of inhabit that. It really kind of, and I think it's a very stylish way of. I'm always impressed by the stage design that is non-literal and manages to be sort of 5-dimensional, you know.
Absolutely, yeah.
And actually encourages the sort of actor that I think I broadly speaking, I think I am on stage at any rate, which is not to be sort of chained down by not to be prosaic. You can be. A teacher I had at drama school used to say, "You're giants, you know. You're giants. You're monsters." I like that. You know,
I like
you can
that
be.
too, yeah.
She didn't say you could have to be unsubtle, but the stage is not a naturalistic space, I don't think. There's nothing naturalistic about being in a room with a bunch of people you know are not the people they say they are. That's not. I mean, I don't really believe in naturalism, if I'm honest. I think it's a set of chains that are handed down to a certain generation of actors, of which I'm one, to make them very neurotic about their performances until they realise that the whole point is that we're all using our imaginations together. And once you realise that.
Very freeing.
It's incredibly freeing, right?
Yeah.
It's literally what everyone's come there to do. There are occasionally people who come to a theatre not willing to use their imaginations, and we don't like those people.
Yeah,
I can tell you.
that's right.
Yeah.
Right. If Ink is, of course, the origin story of this sort of populist tabloid journalism and Rupert Murdoch. If James Graham were to write a sequel, because it ends at a point, I don't want to give anything away, but it's a sort of an open-ended ending to the play. We know where Rupert Murdoch went off. If James were to continue the story, would you be willing to play Rupert again into the next stage of his career?
Yeah, I have a feeling I'm going to be playing this role for the rest of my life in one form or another. Yeah, well, I mean, it's a great story, isn't it?
It is. Yeah.
And it's one with many chapters, and yeah, I mean, I suppose you could. Yeah, the answer is yes.
And speaking of, it's been 6 years since you did a musical here on Broadway. Is a musical something you're interested in doing again?
I'm extremely happy working with music. I think acting is quite musical anyway. I think a lot about rhythm and tempo and feel and all these things which are essentially musical dynamics. So, yeah, but. I mean, I don't really see a separation actually either. It's just a question of finding the thing that kind of lights up your imagination the right way, and
right.
It helps as well if the creative team want you to do it. So.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, when the right match comes, I can't wait actually.
That would be great. And one final question.
Yeah.
From viewers?
Last final question is going to be just what has this INK experience meant to you? Being able to do it in the West End, now doing it on Broadway, getting nominated, another Tony. How does it feel for you?
Oh, it's really special. I mean, it really is, and it doesn't come around every day. It's incredible actually being here in New York, where I've really noticed people say "Welcome to New York," and they, in a way that they. I've never heard anyone say welcome to London, which isn't to say Londoners aren't welcoming, but they're welcoming in a different way, and they just don't say it. There might be a sort of, but I feel very welcome here, and to be, fated in this way is incredible. It's really amazing. And to come and do this play, it was an amazing experience making the play in London with an incredible cast, an incredible ensemble cast led by Richard Coyle. And then to come here and find a new family in the cast here, and to work alongside Johnny, who is wonderful.
Johnny Lee Miller's fantastic.
I feel so blessed.
Yeah,
it doesn't always go that way either. There's no guarantee that you're going to be able to sort of have a good experience the second time around, and it's been a wonderful experience. I feel extremely, extremely fortunate for every stage of the life of the thing. I'm very, very proud to be a point of continuity.
Fantastic. Well, it is a fantastic play. INK, the Samuel J. Friedman Theater. You have until July 7th, as of right now, to see it. Nominated for 6 Tony Awards, including for Bertie Carvel right here. Congratulations, sir.
Thank you very
Good
much.
luck on that. Of course, come back and see us anytime. Make sure you go see INK. And fantastic. Thank you so much.
It's a pleasure.
Caitlin, why don't you take us out?
Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We are live at 5 every single day on Facebook. You can listen to us wherever you get your podcasts by searching for #live@5 and hitting that subscribe button. Be sure to tune in tomorrow when we talk to the newly minted 3-time Tony nominee, Brendan Uranowitz of Burn This.